Hey! Hi everyone, Frontany Bottomo here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Front Bottoms record, Back on Top. These guys are a New Jersey rock band with 5 records under their belt now, from what I can see. And over the course of these albums, the band has embraced a mix of punk music and folk music and a little bit of pop punk and a splash of indie and emo. And their songs usually have kind of a strong pop edge to them too, which is definitely the case of their last 2 full-length albums. And from the sound of it, Back on Top seems to be the Front Bottoms' most catchy and kind of well-groomed album yet. It's a little slick. The folk music influences have pretty much evaporated on this LP. There are a few spare, like, little acoustic moments here and there on this record, but there's not like a really strong, folky, sort of very prominent acoustic guitar sound that carries from one end of a song to another. This is a very electric album with some very thick, heavy, prominent bass. It's got a very, I want to say, heavy but not too overpowering mix of guitars and bass and drums. Reminds me a little bit of old school Weezer. There's an element of power pop here in the mix, but then with the vocals, I think we get this very shouted, urgent, very kind of pained vocal delivery that reminds me a lot of some old Against Me records. Not bad artists to pull from, influence-wise. And what the Front Bottoms are doing isn't really that difficult from a complexity standpoint, aside from a few shots of horns here and there on the record. But I still think what the Front Bottoms are doing with their songs, with their lyrics, is really good. I mean, they're really delving into some intense emotional states and personal stories. It feels like more than just an exercise in melodrama, which is how a lot of newer emo and pop punk records just feel to me. Because there are some lines lyrically that really stick with me on this record, like with the opening track. Right from the get-go, the Front Bottoms are sounding really catchy. They're just coming out right from the gate with a good tune. Sometimes you gotta close your eyes to truly see the light. Just a really sharp, tried and true chord progression on this track, along with the song Help. Killer hook on this song. Killer hook. And the lyrics, I think, kind of describe someone who is in this just amazingly clueless and helpless state. It's a pretty strong character portrait, I think. And on the song Laugh Till I Cry, another top-notch hook here, and lyrically the band seems to be describing, I don't know, this idea of maturing or growing up. We have our protagonist in the song talking about how they used to party all the time, and now they've kind of just grown out of that, or sort of changed their mind. I think a lot of these themes are extended on the song Historic Cemetery, and while it isn't one of my favorite tracks on the record, the rap verse from GDP at the back end of this song was a surprise and was actually pretty enjoyable. It's rare that a hip-hop verse ends up on a punk record or a pop punk record or an emo record or whatever, and it turns out tasteful. And the closing track on here I thought was pretty decent too. It was this cute little pop rock tune which sort of takes comfort in the idea of some kind of greater plan for your life by, I don't know, a god or a greater power or something. And I feel like there's a narrative being pulled together here with the imagery of the plastic flowers and the victim's family and the emergency room, but the lyrics are just too esoteric to pull it all together into a story that I think has any real impact. And that's kind of the shame sometimes with these lyrics. They're occasionally just so abstract and so, I guess, broken and fractured that it's difficult for me as the listener to really, I don't know, get anything emotionally out of it, even though it sounds like the band is certainly having I guess, an emotional exorcism on record. A lot of the other tracks on here really aren't anything to write home about. They just really feel like very general emo pop punky power pop tunes. Though I will say my least favorite moments on this record are when the instrumentation and everything just sounds so slick and so groomed and commercial that I think the band loses really all of its rock edge. Sort of like on the third track here, which has some very sweet little sugary keyboard melodies on it. And I think the biggest offender of this is maybe the plan, fuck a job, which certainly sounds like the plan is to say fuck jobs on here, because instead of just turning your life, into some sort of 9 to 5 for some kind of big company. You're kind of turning your record into something that sounds like a 9 to 5 with these overly slick pianos that if you grabbed an instrumental bit from this part of the record, of this part of the song, you could easily put it behind a commercial, like in a music bed for some new Apple product, or maybe some kind of granola candy bar that's marketed to people who are health conscious. I thought this album was okay. I thought it had a lot of decent things going on for it. The production, for the most part, aside from the slicker tracks on here, was decent. There was at least a handful of very good, catchy songs on here. Just occasionally, I think with each song not really varying too far from the blueprint of a song like Help, of a song like Motorcycle, some tracks just kind of pale in comparison to others. There's just not that much variety on this album, honestly. And sometimes the lyrics don't really connect in a strong way. Sometimes the lyrics are pulling out some really interesting imagery, but they fail to pull it together into a portrait of something. Yeah, it was decent. It was decent. I'm feeling like a decent, strong 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? If you have, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, music forever. Hey everyone, you know who it is? Antoine Fantoine here. And on your page right now, you are seeing a picture of our brand new website brought to us by the good people over at Squarespace. If you want to build your own site via Squarespace, there is a link down there in the description. You can do so at a discount, and we will also link you to this page we are showing you right now. It's a starter pack playlist of songs from noise music pioneer, noise music figurehead, Merzbow. So if you've ever been looking to get into this genre of music, get into Merzbow's music, hear the best and the brightest of his catalog, hear the cream of the crop of his catalog, the interesting bits, the bits that are going to, I guess, get you understanding Merzbow as an artist, try out this playlist that we have provided via the link in the description box. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have a good day. Thank you for your time. You're the best forever.